Hey Ravens fans, coming with the latest news from our Ravens, straight to you. So if you want to stay in the know, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any of the latest Baltimore Ravens updates. You know how quickly things can change, and you don't want to be the only one missing out on the latest news. Now, let's dive into some big stories that will have a big impact on the rest of the season. First, let's talk about Derrick Henry. You all know Henry is a beast, one of the most dominant running backs in NFL history. But here's the thing, he's not going to be the guy who catches the ball 30 times a game anymore. That was the deal with the Titans, but the Ravens have a different approach. Henry has led the NFL in rushing attempts in 4 of the last 5 seasons, but that's not how we're going to use him. Against the Chiefs last week, Henry managed 46 yards and a touchdown on just 13 carries, but he wasn't the main guy. Instead, we saw Isaiah Likely and Lamar Jackson shine, with Likely racking up 9 receptions for 111 yards and a touchdown, while Lamar did Lamar things with 273 passing yards and another 122 yards on the ground. So why aren't we seeing Henry carry the rock 30 times? Well, it's part of the plan to use our offensive versatility to keep teams guessing. Head coach John Harbaugh laid it out, saying, "We didn't bring Derrick in here to be the guy that gets the ball 30 times a game. Instead, the Ravens are going to play to their strengths, being unpredictable and taking advantage of matchups. One week it might be Henry going for over 100 yards, and the next week it might be Likely or Rashad Bateman being the star. We've got weapons all over the field, and that's going to make this offense even harder to stop. But don't worry, Ravens fans. We're still going to see plenty of Derrick Henry moments. Harbaugh is confident there will be games where Henry dominates, and when that happens, you're going to love the mix of speed and power he brings. It's all about using the right tools at the right time, and Henry is still one of the best weapons in the NFL. Now, speaking of controversies from last week's game, Ronnie Stanley is not happy. He was flagged 3 times for illegal formation, which left a lot of us scratching our heads. The crazy part? The Chiefs didn't get called once for the same thing. Stanley said after the game that it felt like the refs were trying to make an example out of him, and he's got a point. The Ravens have been practicing illegal formation awareness all offseason, so to get flagged repeatedly, while the Chiefs weren't flagged at all, seems pretty off. And here's where it gets even more interesting. The Ravens have tracking data that could back Stanley's argument. Players have chips in their shoulder pads, and the team can see exactly where Stanley was lined up compared to the Chiefs' tackles. Harbaugh said they'll send the data to the league for review, but he's not too worried about it moving forward. Stanley's positioning seemed fine for most of the game, and this might just be a case of the refs being extra strict for one game. What do you think, Ravens fans? Do you think Stanley was unfairly targeted, or were the refs just trying to enforce the new rules? Let me know in the comments because this could become a talking point for the rest of the season. Let's also give some major credit to Justice Hill for stepping up big time in that final play of the game. We were so close to pulling off the comeback against the Chiefs, but Isaiah Likely's catch was ruled out of bounds. If that touchdown had stood, Hill would have been the unsung hero. Why? Because on that play, Hill was stuck blocking Chris Jones, one of the most dominant defensive tackles in the league. And guess what? Hill held his ground. It wasn't supposed to be Hill one-on-one against Jones. There was a mix-up due to the crowd noise, and Hill ended up having to take on Jones by himself without any help from right tackle Patrick McCree. But instead of panicking, Hill used his quickness and strength to keep Jones off Lamar just long enough to give him a chance to make the throw. Hill deserves all the credit for that moment, and Harbaugh couldn't stop praising him after the game. That's the kind of effort you love to see from a guy like Hill. Lastly, we've got some updates coming on the injury front. Lamar Jackson, Kyle Van Noy, Nate Wiggins, Deontay Hardy, and Adissa Isaac all missed practice on Monday. Steve Weish from NFL Network reported that Van Noy suffered a fractured orbital bone during the game, which could mean some time on the sideline for him. We'll know more about everyone else on Wednesday when the official injury report comes out, but there's definitely some concern heading into the next week. Ravens fans, what do you think about Derrick Henry's role in this offense? Are you on board with the plan to spread the ball around, or do you want to see Henry get more touches like he did in Tennessee? And how about Ronnie Stanley's penalties? Do you think the refs need to take a closer look at how they're calling these games? I want to hear your thoughts, so drop them in the comments below. Alright, let's talk about the big news from Monday's practice that has everyone excited. Lamar Jackson, our MVP quarterback, was nowhere to be seen at practice, ***, that's right, folks. Multiple reports have confirmed that Jackson was absent from Monday's session, and here's the thing, no one knows why. Jackson, who put up impressive numbers in our opener against the Kansas City Chiefs, 273 passing yards with a touchdown and 122 yards on the ground, showed no signs of injury during the game. He held his own behind an offensive line with 3 new starters and only had 1 sack. So the big question is, why wasn't he there? Now, before anyone starts panicking, it's worth mentioning that this isn't the first time Lamar has missed a practice without any apparent issue. Last season, he missed part of training camp due to illness and even voluntarily skipped time during OTAs. So while we're all eager to find out what's going on, there's no immediate cause for alarm just yet. Coach Harbaugh gave a brief update after practice, saying, "We had a bunch of guys who weren't there, some personal and some physical." The injury report comes out Wednesday afternoon, so you'll be better informed that day about all those guys. In other words, we won't know for sure until Wednesday when the official injury report is released, but Harbaugh didn't seem too concerned. It wasn't just Lamar who was missing. Nate Wiggins, Deontay Hardy, Adissa Isaac and Kyle Van Noy were also missing from the field. Van Noy, of course, fractured his orbital bone during the second half of the Chiefs game, so we expected him to miss some time. As for Wiggins and Hardy, they didn't appear to have suffered any injuries during the game, so their absences also remain a bit of a mystery. Isaac, who didn't play in the Chiefs game because of a hamstring issue, is another question mark. Hopefully this is just a precaution to make sure he's ready for our next game. But with several key players missing from practice, it's something to keep an eye on as the week progresses. Now, back to Lamar, this is definitely going to be a hot topic heading into the next game. Whether it's personal, precautionary, or something else entirely, Ravens fans, I want to know, are you worried about Lamar's absence? Is this just a typical day off for our star QB, or are you getting a little anxious about the lack of clarity? Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think there's more to the story, or is it just business as usual? Alright, Ravens fans, that's it for today's update. Be sure to like this video, leave a comment, and hit that subscribe button ** so you never miss an update. We have a lot to watch this week with the injury report coming out on Wednesday, and I'll be here to break it all down for you. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Go Ravens!